It's the Blues Rock Show with Pete Francis and Willie Whitten.
Welcome to the Blues Rock Show. I'm Pete Francis, joined by Willie Whitten. Today, our special guest is guitarist Davy Knowles. He's got a new album coming out October 22nd. What happens next? Davy, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You got it. So, Davy, this is your first album on Provogue. You've been at it for a while, but your first album on Provogue. So why was now the time to join up with them?
Well, I think if I answer this entirely honestly, I'd done a couple of albums under my own steam, and I'm really proud of them. But I think I needed help. I think I needed a little bit of guidance. I think I needed a little bit of help with the business side of things too. And Mascot Provogue has been a label that I've greatly admired for a long time. I'm a big fan of 99.9%, if not 100% of the roster. So I'm really glad that it came about. It was a lovely experience, kind of getting to meet the folks there and know them and figure something out.
So Davy, first of all, I want to say that's a very humble thing. We rarely hear that. I went to a different label, not because I wanted to expand, but I looked for a little bit of help. That's pretty indicative of the type of guitar player you are, and it shows with your playing. Going with that, compared to the outsider, this does have a little bit of a different feel. It's a little bit, at least to me, it was more of a coherent album through and through. Was that something that came of your idea, or was it some of the team at Provogue and some of the new people helping you get that feel?
I think that's a really, really astute observation, actually. I agree with you. I feel like I like all of the songs on the Outsider record, but whether or not they all belong together on the same body of work, I'm not sure. And sometimes I feel a bit like that, and I can be kind of a little bit erratic. A little bit kind of all over the place with my writing. I think really the cohesiveness, I have a lot to thank Eric Korn with. Eric produced the record, and we really talked at length about how we wanted to present an album, or what kind of album we wanted to make. I wanted to do something far more restrained, far less foot on the monitor, here we go, here's another guitar solo kind of thing. I wanted it to be more song-based, and I also wanted it to be slightly more modern sounding. And Eric got that, and he really helped keep me on those tracks, really.
Willie and I have both had a chance to listen to the record already, and one of the tracks that kind of really grabbed me was River. Can you tell us a little bit about that song?
Yeah, River, I think it was right. I wrote this right about the time when Hosier, is that how you say it? Released "Take Me to Church," that tune.
Yeah, okay.
And I love that song. I think it's a really clever song because it's got this very dark, foreboding kind of atmosphere about it. And I just thought it was this, I don't know, it was like a pop version of a gospel tune, and I loved that. I think I really loved that dark piano sound in it. And I'm a terrible pianist, but I wanted to try and write something on piano. And so that was my first kind of stab at doing that with that kind of feel in my head, not in a plagiaristic sense, but more of I was inspired by that song. I thought it was a great pop song that was a lot more than just a pop song. So yeah, River was about that, and then lyrically, it's kind of autobiographical. I feel like I am my own worst enemy a lot of the time, and I also think that I kind of I'm never really settled. I'm never really happy with direction, or and I pick a direction, I go there for 10 minutes, and then I feel like I've made a terrible choice, and that doesn't mean musically, but just in life in general, I kind of stumble from crisis to crisis. And then the idea was really to try and write a gospel version of that sentiment.
That's interesting. Once again, the candor is very much appreciated. And as long as we're talking about candor, the final song on the album really stood out to me. It was not that your other stuff has not been very direct and emotive as well, but if I ever meet my maker,
Yeah.
man, I don't know what exactly it's about. And I'm not saying you got to share, but it seemed awfully personal. If you care to share, I'm sort of wondering where that's coming from.
I don't mind sharing at all. And I'm really, really pleased that you picked up on that song because it means an awful lot to me. In the space of 3 years, I lost my dad, got married, and we had our first child. And it was a lot to deal with. A lot of sadness, but also a lot of hope and a lot of excitement too. And then also this kind of feeling of, I wish that my dad was here to share this. And I'm not saying my situation is a unique one. It was just one that was difficult to navigate. So if I ever meet my maker really is a song for both my dad and my growing family. I wanted to ask him so many things about being a dad that I was never able to do. And that's tough. So I really wrote it for him and for my firstborn Emmy. Really is, I'm so proud of this moment. I'm going through some of the things I know he must have gone through. And that was my way of kind of expressing that.
Davey, you mentioned becoming a father. Has that changed your perspective in terms of songwriting?
Oh yeah. I write a lot more songs about going to the bathroom and things like that. A lot of my songs tend to be ridiculous. No, I think it's changed me in general. I'm so lucky. I have two gorgeous little girls, and I feel extraordinarily lucky, very privileged. And yeah, I think if it didn't change your outlook and the way it affects, hopefully, if you're writing in an honest way, it'll affect your output as well. I can't think of who it wouldn't change. Yeah.
Davey, these days, if I know this correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, you're sort of based out of Chicago. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I've been here a long time now. Yeah.
That's where I'm from. And I know it's a bustling city, but I also know about you is you didn't grow up in so much of a bustling city.
Yeah.
Tell everyone sort of where you grew up, because it's not really like Chicago or New York City.
Right. Yeah. I grew up a little island called the Isle of Man, which is right in the middle between England and Ireland, right in the middle of the Irish Sea. It's a tiny place. And really, I grew up in a little village. And even outside of the little village, like kind of bordering on a hamlet. It was very rural and everyone knew each other. And musically, it was great. It was nurturing. There was so much music, and every pub had live music, and the drinking laws were a lot more relaxed back then. If you weren't bothering anyone, you could go in and have a pint at, 13, 14. And no one really minded. But that was great for getting to meet musicians and older musicians. And so from a musical education, it was great because it was easy to find like-minded people. It was very friendly and very safe. It is a tremendously beautiful place. I really feel lucky to have grown up there.
So what made you pick Chicago then as the place you wanted to relocate to?
Well, I mean, Chicago, I kind of, worshipped so much and so many that came out of Chicago. But I was lucky enough to move to the States, move to Los Angeles first when I was around 19, which was a bit of a culture shock, I can tell you. And although I've got lots of friends in LA and I don't regret it, it was just a little bit competitive for me. I think it was maybe too much too soon. I found it a little bit more cutthroat than I was maybe cut out to be. And we used to spend a lot of time in Chicago because it was just a great central location, just from a purely logistical standpoint. And I met my now wife, kind of typical musician story, really. I met my now wife. She's born and raised in Chicago, and I like the place an awful lot more. For my personality, I found it a little kinder.
Well, Davey, to be honest, Pete's also a Midwestern boy. And when we go out to LA, we find a bit of a culture shock. Even though we're from the States. So don't feel badly about that. Do you plan on staying in Chicago long term, or do you have, because so many musicians these days, they navigate to whether it's in Nashville and Austin or maybe back to an LA. Do you think Chicago's going to be a home for you for the long term? Or are you thinking ever about moving back across the pond?
Oh, there's a lot about the Isle of Man that I miss. There's a certain comfort, I think, for anyone's hometown. I'm not saying it's particularly the Isle of Man. I'm just, I think a lot of us kind of yearn to be back where we started. But the other hand, I couldn't do this for a living being based there. It would just make no sense. I don't see myself moving to a major kind of musical center like Austin or Nashville, LA, again, for the same reasons I left LA, really. There is a musical community, but I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at the whole kind of scene. I tend to kind of tread quite quietly, and I think that's more my nature than anything. Again, I'm not particularly competitive. I'm not very good at selling myself or, chucking myself out there. I'm fairly reserved. Now, as far as staying in Chicago, I'm not sure either. I really like it here. I love it. It's wonderful. It's been great I've been here over a decade now. But if I were to move, I think it would be to move out into a quieter kind of country, more what I grew up with. I think that would probably be more my speed.
Okay, so now that you've said that about sort of being quiet and treading lightly, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. It's nothing too harsh.
All right.
Through some of your music and what I know about you, and obviously there's many influences, but I pick up on three sort of key ones, and those are Mark Knopfler. I pick up on a little bit of Clapton. I pick up on a lot of Rory Gallagher.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question here. 3 different weekends. One weekend is you get to pick one of the guys to play, jam, perhaps record with. Another weekend is you get to go to the shows for a residency for 2 or 3 nights. And the third weekend is you just get to hang out with them, go on a few hikes, have a few scotches or beers. You get to pick one of those guys for each of those weekends. Who gets what weekend?
Wow.
I know it's not fair.
It's a tough one, Willie. You really put him on the spot.
Tough one. I think to go and watch play at a residency, I would pick Rory, because I don't think I'd be able to. Not that I could keep up with any of them, but just the sheer ferocity. I wish I'd experienced that. I've seen both Knopfler and Clapton live, and I adore it. Just wonderful. But Rory, I wish I'd seen. So I'd pick him for that. To sit down for a bit of a natter and a pint, I would say probably Mark Knopfler. I think he's such a fantastic lyricist. I imagine he's got some pretty fantastic stories to tell. And then, I guess that would leave Clapton to play with. Just he's the originator of so much. And I feel like actually, current press aside, which I won't touch with a 10-foot barge pole.
Don't blame you.
He does get a bad kind of rap, I think, in being. I see a lot of comments online, which is not an indicator of anything, but he's boring. He hasn't done anything useful in all this time. As far as I can tell, I think we owe him so much, and so many of our other heroes owe him so much as well. He can do whatever he likes. He's earned that right, and whatever makes him happy at this point. He doesn't have to prove himself to anyone. But I think because he's still with us, maybe we lose the maybe just the magnitude of what he did for guitar music. Because he's still here, we lose sight that in 1966, and when the Beano album came out, just how utterly incredible that is. So So yeah, I would like to see that. I would like to be in the room with one of the originators. Yeah.
They put out the Rory Gallagher 50th anniversary recently. Did you get a chance to check that out?
Not yet, no, but I've had my kind of trigger finger hovering over the mouse a few times.
Well, you've got kids now and family, and that once you hit that button, your family might not see you for like a day.
This is true. This is right? True. Absolutely. But that might benefit them. I don't know.
Well, the new album is What Happens Next. It comes out on October 22nd. Davey, any final thoughts before we let you go?
Oh, no, it's, we recorded this album almost a year ago now. And so it's really exciting for us to be finally getting this out there. And it is something different for me. I think it is important for myself to kind of reach out in different avenues, different directions to keep myself kind of sane, I guess. And I'm really proud of it. I'm really I'm really honored to work with some wonderful musicians and a wonderful producer and a wonderful label. I'm a very lucky man indeed.
Well, October 22nd, check it out. All right, Davey, thanks so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, that's going to wrap up this week's edition of the Blues Rock Show. For Davy Knowles and Willie Witten, I'm Pete Francis. We'll see you next time.